Am I the a-hole for telling my daughters that I made a mistake by choosing to stay in their lives? My ex-wife and I got divorced 14 years ago. It was due to infidelity on her part. Our daughters were 9 and 7 at the time. The divorce was messy. She moved in with her affair partner and ended up with primary custody. I got every other weekend. It was a disaster from the very start. The kids did not respond well to the changes. I tried to have a good co-parenting thing going, but little did I know that my daughters were being turned against me. They would be angry and sullen each time they would visit and refuse to talk about what was wrong. Tantrums, screaming, cursing became the norm. And that's when they were not totally withdrawn. They were being fed complete lies about me. How I didn't love them, how I was going to leave them for another family, etc. It didn't improve with time. In their teens they cost me 2 very serious relationships with just the most venomous behavior. They didn't even want to visit me anymore, but I insisted that they do. I don't know if that was a mistake or not. They pretty much cut me off. The only time they'd visit was to ask for money. I thought things would improve as they got older and saw through all the lies, but sadly it hasn't. I think it never will. I'm just done at this point. At the start of this year they'd come to my house to ask for more money. When I refused they yelled at me again and said they wished I wasn't their father. Something broke inside me and I told them I wished I had just walked away from them. That if I hadn't stayed in their lives maybe I would have had an actual shot at a happy life. Maybe they would have too. They looked shocked, and then screamed and cried and left. I haven't seen them since. No visits, no phone calls. Nothing. It fills me with incredible guilt, but I almost feel relieved that they're not around anymore. It was a terrible thing to say, but I can't help but feel like there was truth in it. So, am I the a-hole? I know this feeling so very well. Even in a mostly good relationship. My current ex and I have been trying to remain friends, but it feels like it takes so much effort to do so and fight old feelings that. You put it so well. I just haven't had room for anything else, barely even work. Pensive face. It might get easier with time, and with redrawn boundaries, I keep telling myself. Indeed, my aunt did something similar towards her ex-husband. My cousins luckily weren't this bad towards their dad, but they refused to keep their father's last name and changed it to my aunt's husband when they got married instead. Everyone else knows my aunt was the loony, but the kids got fed too much BS. AITA. I dislike so much when a parent feeds lies to kids about the other parent. When the other parent actually wants to be a good parent to their child. I'm sorry you went through that top. If it helps, I heard writing a letter to you kids about all the things from your perspective, the cheating, the way you wanted more custody, how they were fed lies, how they ruined 2 major relationships cause of the lies they were fed by their mother. And just let them know that what you said you wished you walked out their life and that their only reason for visiting is just about money, and saying they wish you weren't their father hurt you horribly and something just snapped. Then your choice to send it and their choice to read it or throw it away. Can also be in text or message form if they didn't block you. Then see if they want to reach out and actually start a real father-kid relationship. With an apology and not asking for money. Hope you do well in your life from now on up. Good luck. Don't talk SHT about the mom though. If they trust her, that will only make them stop listening. Just keep it on the facts. You know she cheated, you know you wanted to fix things, you think she fed them lies. It could well be them filling in the blanks on their own and making a false reality for all you know. An example of which? Asking people to spell things out. One would be that I had a friend who suddenly never had time to hang out when I asked. Then I realized she was never initiating anymore. I figured she was just super busy and our friendship died. Years later I found out another person had told her I had said something about her that I hadn't. She wildly misconstrued what I actually said. So now I know that a lot of people won't just talk to you when they're upset. They'll just stop hanging out. So if someone isn't initiating contact or hanging out with me the way they used to, I'll just ask point blank if something's wrong or if they're just busy or want alone time. Saves trouble. Here is something else that is maybe more autistic. I've had a hard time meeting male romantic partners and couldn't understand why. A male friend told me that I don't flirt right. He tried to give me a tutorial, like you lightly touch the guy on the arm or shoulder, you stand closer to him, you look at a guy, then look away, then look back again. I told him there was no way I was going to do that because it seems really awkward, fake, and abnormal. So I just go my usual route of talking about shared interests and will just ask a guy I'm interested in if he wants to go get some coffee and go for a walk, or go get a beer. I just take the bull by the horns because I can't imagine myself flirting. I'm on the spectrum and have a story that might be a good example. My mom asked that I go sweep up the ditch. Now, what she meant and how most people would take that would be to use a rake, but I took it more literally and swept the grass with a massive shop broom. I didn't understand and thought it was really not effective, but she said, sweep and not rake, so I did as I was asked. Sometimes those little nuances need to be spelled out to us. Think innuendo, or passive-aggressive behavior. If someone says, I loaded the dishwasher since you didn't, I might understand the tone to mean, I unloaded the dishwasher because you didn't when you should have, and I'm mad about it. Someone who has autism is more likely to take the person at their words, not at the underlying meaning. ETA, actually, that may be more characteristic of Asperger's. The person who explained it to me has Asperger's. I'm autistic too, and not picking up on subtle things is a lot about wording. If people just say wow, I wish I could come over repeatedly or something like that, I won't pick up on them hinting that I should invite them over. I won't unless they specifically ask or try to set up a time, for example. Like, you need to be direct with stuff because cues that you might think are obvious won't register to me. Passive comments, hypotheticals/abstracts, and indirect cues are more difficult for autistic people to parse. My dad and stepmom, mostly stepmom, kept me away from my birth mother, claiming that she could have seen me at any point but wouldn't. Doesn't really add up now that I think about it, because when I was a teenager and expressed regret over keeping my bio mom out of my life, SM made it clear I was not allowed to have a relationship with bio. They told me things about my maternal grandfather as well, saying it wasn't safe for me to be around him for those reasons. I left SM and dad and have a relationship with bio now. She says those were lies they made up to keep me from her. I'm not entirely sure who to believe, but I'm more inclined to believe her because she has definitely been better to me and more supportive within a few weeks than the parents I was raised with were throughout my entire life. I plan to find out for sure though. I'm sorry about your situation. Glad you didn't fall for it. My ex-husband did it with our daughter too. I always hoped that when she grew up she would realize it, but that wasn't to be. I've heard from her once in the last 20 years that was because she was in legal trouble. She was hoping I would perjure myself to keep her out of jail. I didn't the waterworks began about how I was abandoning her again. Thing is, I never abandoned her in the first place. That was one of the lies her father his 15-year-old wife told her. He tried the same with our son, but he called bull when he heard an the 15-year-old refused to allow him into her home because of it. My heart goes out to you. I wish I could say it gets easier, but all I can say is you learn to live with it. Oh my God. That's horrible. I mean, I don't believe for a second he didn't know her age. That's a common lie. We met at a bar and she lied. Rubbish. I don't understand how the courts didn't take that into account as to why he maybe shouldn't get full custody. Goodness. That's disgusting. What a horrible thing to fall into your unsuspecting lap. I'm so sorry he turned out to be a literal predator. I really hope you get custody. No grown, married man with kids who blows it all up to marry a little child that he cheated with should be the primary caretaker of the kids. Especially when we know how a lot of men only fight for custody to spite their wives, not because they actually care about their kids that much. That's not always the case, of course. There are many genuinely good dads who fight, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was one of those just doing it for spite. Unfortunately, there are plenty of them.